I've come to Woburn House today on behalf of Strike a Light Arts and Heritage to really be present at this AHRC Arts Humanities Research Council organised event with all of the different centres of research around World War I. So the World War I kind of lived experience, whether that's military or civilian. And really what's happening is a kind of sharing of all these different projects from around the country. So people have come from as far as the Western Isles in Scotland and down from Cornwall. There's people here from Birmingham, from Leeds, and everyone's sharing their different community projects.
My understanding is to reflect on the past 4 to 5 years worth of centenaries, to share some best practice on what happened, and also to pick up on any lessons going forward, really.
I think it's really important through the whole period of the commemoration that we try and we come out and we say, this is what happened to me, this is what happened to you, these are the truths, this is the impact that war has on families, on communities. And I think the best of what's happened during the commemoration has been when those stories have come out and been revealed.
Although there's lots of academics and universities here, what is really great to see is that real flowering of local community voices.
I've really enjoyed the discussions around the vast array of different kind of events and projects that have been developed over the past 4 or 5 years.
There's been a real sort of plethora of stories and a real richness actually, and I think nobody could have predicted just how varied and diverse the sort of tales that would emerge from this kind of centenary investigation, I think.
The First World War is impossible to comprehend if we only see the list of the millions of the dead. From me, a descendant of those who fought, I hope I can begin to better understand that history through the personal histories of others like me. Many of us, particularly in Germany, have lived with a silence within our families concerning this terrible war and its legacy that haunts us.
We looked at a very simple idea, bringing 12 children of First World War combatants, British children and grandchildren, and 12 German children of combatants together to live together in Germany for 4 days, and for them to exchange their family stories with each other. We did not think that when those descendants met, which was an extraordinary moment, that this project would ever be 100 years on about reconciliation, but it was.
We also held a series of antiques roadshow style events across East Belfast. They were extremely well attended. Some of the things that came forward were absolutely unbelievable. I remember vividly the first item which was brought in. A lady came in with a Tesco shopping bag. Other supermarkets are available. She plunked it on the table and I thought, you know, she's maybe got the wrong event here or something. But anyway, she proceeded to open the Tesco's bag, and this thing, it can only be described as a thing, was wrapped up in paper, and she unwrapped this and it was human hair. It was a ponytail from someone's head, and I thought, okay, well, we'll give her the benefit of the doubt. And she told this amazing story about how her great-grandfather had fought in the First World War with one of the local units raised in Belfast. He was injured. He found himself in the Chinese Labour Corps of all units. Some people within the Chinese Labour Corps were having ponytails cut from their head as some sort of punishment, perhaps for not working hard enough or fast enough or whatever, though we couldn't really verify that. And this thing stayed in her house until she had an opportunity to bring it out.
Brighton and Hove and Sussex particularly aren't sort of known centres for sort of Judaism. Actually what's interesting is how many sort of quite big established families, Jewish families that there were living in that area at the time of World War I. And their kind of contribution to the war effort as sort of family members in terms of inventions. So the Gestetner machine, which was a sort of early facsimile machine, was invented by a local Sussex Jewish family around the time of the First World War. So teasing out these stories of nurses and things has been really fascinating.
Everyone here has been absolutely brilliant. I got brought along through the Tottenham Hotspur Foundation and got introduced. From the first meeting I had, there are always people checking in on me and have contacts for me and have promised they will let me know if there is anything relevant that comes up, or sending me across, asking how I'm doing. I couldn't really have asked for a more supportive bunch of people, to be honest.
What I've found from this event, but also the groups that have come here today, it's a kind of sense of sort of solidarity and a sense of a network, I think, that I don't necessarily know was present before. I feel like we've all come together to sort of really, discover new learning, transfer knowledge, share experiences.
Nicola and Ian have been very much at the forefront of that. I don't get through the door at any of these events without them checking up on me and checking that I'm okay and recommending that I speak to people when they come up.
You get the opportunity to share your mistakes in a kind of supportive atmosphere and to learn together. So it can be very isolating, this kind of way of working. So I think when lots of organisations come together and cards on the table, I think it's a real positive thing, and that's what for me today is about.
These research centres have been great at bridging the gap between academics and amateur researchers and communities and the average man and woman on the street, and that has been part of the focus of the research centres, and I think that has worked well. It has allowed academic thinking to feed into the community groups, and it has also allowed for some of that amateur research to be fed into the academic narrative.
It's quite a symbiotic relationship, and I think we all need each other, and we all realise that we all need each other, and the expertise that comes with that, whether that's academic expertise or community-based. But I think there will be lots of organic and informal partnerships that take place and continue as a result of that.
So we collaborated with the First World War Centre Everyday Lives in War. Our academic partners are in the next room, Professor Mike Roper and Dr. Rachel Duffy from the University of Essex. That was fantastic. We've had collaborations with museums, galleries, hospices, football club, great partnership with Leyton Orient Football Club, Wimbledon Theatre. In Germany we had partnerships with Caritas, with Münchner Bildungswerk, with the Dachau Institute next to the concentration. It was who wants to be part of the project, and I think one of the things we had going for us was its simplicity.
We also worked on a partnership project called The Boys on the Plaque with a contemporary visual arts gallery, Fabrica Gallery in Brighton, and in partnership with the Libraries and Information Service from Brighton and Hove as well. And we did lots of work with them to organise Heritage Open Days events, to really kind of showcase newfound knowledge and encourage community learning.
I've also reached out to engage with people in the creative communities in a way that I perhaps might not have done if it hadn't have been for the kind of centenary programmes that were being put in place, and that's kind of allowed me to engage with creative productions of stage plays and so forth, people producing poetry relating to the Caribbean experience. Clearly there's been a level of engagement across age ranges, across different black and ethnic minority communities, and touching on important issues such as gender and sexuality.
Being from Belfast, being from Northern Ireland, we are a divided society. East Belfast is a divided area of the city. And so there are different competing narratives of that period. And so from my point of view, it was important to try and include all of those narratives. So the war is all around you in Protestant Unionist East Belfast. For Nationalist Republican East Belfast, that's not the case. And so we had those competing narratives, which we had to try and fuse together in order to make sure that the project was as inclusive as it could possibly be. And so that we had to go through a process really of building trust and things like that, and speaking to people, trying to encourage them to come forward with their stories.
The challenge for me has been trying to strike a balance between making sure that my work incorporates a range of experiences.
I think Britain has rather compartmentalised the First World War. The narrative of victory, the narrative of empire, And I think there are quite a few projects which have taken place which I wouldn't say were against that narrative per se, but they wanted to go deeper. They wanted to kind of get the stories out there that, you know, who were these people? And I have to say, it's been a bit like reclaiming our ancestors.
The centenary in the round has been a worthwhile experience. It has brought hidden histories out into the open. My own project, for example, has put a lot of stuff online. So there's a conversation to be had about how all that is preserved going forward.
How do we maintain the kind of legacy and the huge amounts of material and knowledge that's been developed?
From the Northern Ireland perspective, it's almost as if we're leaving the war behind and we're moving on to other things that we have to commemorate and that we have to commemorate sensitively. You know, so hopefully we can add some of that to the conversation today about where we're going next, which I think is a very different direction maybe to some of the other centres and some of the other areas of the UK.
Artistic interpretations, whether that's spoken word, theatre, film, those kind of interpretations are really key to bringing the conflict to new audiences, and particularly in terms of younger people, new generations learning about the conflict.
Children who are experiencing the centenary now, 100 years on, they're the ones in, you know, 50 years or 100 years that will have to take it forward. So it doesn't just become a war like, you know, all of the wars prior to World War I, that it's still this still remains a significant point in history.
I hope that the centenary has had a really, really powerful impact on the next generation, because they are the future and they need to learn, and we all need to learn from what happened to our ancestors.